we can minimize the carbon issue. As a starter, go beyond that to create the zero resources impact future.
Now, we have our final panelist, perhaps saving the best for last, who's joining us because I think we were on the West Coast of the United States. We went to the East Coast of the United States, and I believe that Luke Leung is now in New Delhi. I think I heard mention of that. So that we are going totally outside of the U.S. But I don't. So I'm going to read the piece that I have and then turn it over to Luke so he can let us know. All of a sudden, it went in my head. Is this piece "Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego?" So to let Luke to let us know where he is. So Luke Young is the director of the Sustainability Engineering Studio for Skidmore, Owings and Merrill. This firm is one of the world's largest and most influential architecture, interior design, engineering, and urban planning companies. He leads his team in attaining the highest levels of human, environmental, and financial performance, which is currently the world's current tallest man made structure. Other selected projects to which he has contributed include the Pedamina Tower in Jakarta, Indonesia, the Renaissance Center, which is the General Motors global headquarters in Detroit, the Zhong'an Net Zero development near Beijing, China, and dozens of LEED certified and very tall buildings. Luke has won multiple awards, including 8 Excellence in Engineering Awards from the American Society of Heating, Refrigeration, and Air Conditioning Engineers, 2 Beyond Green Awards from the National Institute of Building Sciences, and several Sustainable Design Awards from the American Institute of Architects. He is the chair of the Environmental Health Committee for ASHRAE, and he's also involved in their task forces on epidemics, commercial buildings, and decarbonization. He's also been an editorial team member of the ASHRAE Design Guide for tall, super tall, mega tall building systems, as well as the Council on Tall Buildings and the Urban Habitats Guide to Natural Ventilation in High Rise Office. He has served on the boards of ASHRAE, the U.S. Green Building Council, and the U.S. National Renewable Energy Laboratory. He received his bachelor's and master's degree in architectural engineering from Penn State University, where he is a Centennial Fellow in the Architectural Engineering Department. He went on to earn his MBA from the University of Chicago. He is a part time professor at the Illinois Institute of Technology, and he frequently gives lectures around the world. We are extraordinarily privileged to have him with us today. So please join me in welcoming Luke Leung to GUP 24.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So if you are expecting beautiful slides, no, you're not gonna get it. Because I just want to talk to you. I want to talk to you about what is your passion? What is your North Star? Maybe you are educator, educating the future students, or maybe you are actually future students. Either case, I would suggest to you that in the next 30 years, which is basically the career of the students they are in school right now, that generation hold the key to soft landing of the environmental and human issues we have. Now, in that process, they could be also doing well in a career. So this past year, I actually went to the White House. First time in my career, invited by the White House staff into the White House to talk about the issues of the day. Never thought I would do that in my career. But the point I'm trying to make is because these issues are so upfront and right in front of humanity, that's why there's opportunity there is for this generation, if they have the right North Star to become impactful in the society. But no, it is more important. That's the passion, and the outcome is impactful to the society, right? So what's your North Star? So I would suggest to you that 3 topics today could be part of that North Star. The first one, the carbon issue. The second one, the human wellness issue. And the third one, the environmental wellness issue. The carbon issue, I think you know that the world, it does not agree to just about anything. We have so much differences. But the world agree on one thing, that if we do not take care of carbon dioxide, together we will be cooked. And that sounds like a really bad idea. By the way, that's why I am in New Delhi, India right now, because I'm here participating in a conference to talk about decarbonization. From US to India to China to Europe to MENA region, Middle East, Africa, South America, no matter where you go, they're talking about that. In fact, the world agree in general, roughly about 2050, we gotta be climate neutral, kind of the Paris Agreement. Some countries are later, China 2060, India 2070. But we all agree that the world try to keep below 1.5 degrees C is important. By the way, we most likely will get there if it's not already exceed that by about 2040. So in order to do that, we gotta minimize our carbon emission, right? From the BU environment standpoint, that's where I spend my life working on. It's about the operational carbon. That means you see the light behind me. We gotta make the operation of this building 0 carbon emission. Number 1 is minimize the amount of energy we need. Then apply renewable energy, operational. Number 2 is embody carbon. Well, how much carbon it takes to make the light bulb? We gotta, again, minimize the material we need to make the light bulb. And then all those material gotta be come from renewable sources or recycle 100% of a circular economy. For the younger generation, we do not live a circular economy. But in the future, we have to. How do we live a life that all our stuff around us, the furniture, the ceiling, the wall, the light bulb, everything will be 100% recycled? Okay. Finally, transportational energy. Move into the electric vehicle, which the first speaker talked about all these changes we're going to face. But moving carbon neutral from operational, embody, and transportation into a 0 carbon emission world so that we as humanity will not be cooked by 2050, which is the decades in front of us for our next generation. For whatever reasons, they were born in this special time that's going to take humanity soft landing, hopefully, into a climate neutral future. That's topic number 1. Number 2, I want to talk to you about is human wellness. The year was 1890. If you are human beings at that time, your life expectancy is about 40 years old in US. Fast forward into the future. Today, our life expectancy is almost 80 years old as Americans. Wow, wouldn't that great to see your grandchildren and all that? But are we healthier? We've been seeing growing in asthma, allergy, all kinds of chronic diseases come out of humanity. You know, November 15, 2022, humanity passed a landmark. We had 8 billion people on this earth. You know, if one thing we did really well, that be fruitful and multiply, man, did we listen to that? We did so well. We created 8 billion of us. Moving forward into 2050 to 2060, we're going to have 10 billion people. Sounds good, but note that when it was 1950, only 7% of the people are above 60 years old. Today, it's about a little bit less than 20%. And moving into 2050 and 2060, we can expect close to 1/3, about 30% of humanity above 60 years old. Well, why is that important? Look at what happened when pandemic hit us. Who got hurt the most? The people above 60 years old. Imagine a world when the next pandemic hit, 1/3 of the population is above 60. How do our healthcare taking care of that? That's not just emergency time. Think about the normal times when 1/3 of the generation is about 60 and they have chronic diseases. How do we take care of them? So one thing we can do is start think about how do we make people healthier? Think back in time. Now we cannot go back into the time tunnel and went back to before industrial revolution and figure out why people are so healthy or healthier, less chronic diseases. But you know what? We can look at one subgroup of Americans, the Amish people, right? When we look at them, we find out they have roughly the same life expectancy as typical American, but they are much healthier in terms of less cancer, less autism, less obesity, and less just about everything chronic diseases. So we start learning from them. One thing they did very well is they are much more integrated with nature, healthier food, and also they have a more diverse microbe because they grow their own food, they eat the food off the land. Okay. So the point about this is we have to think about how to make human beings healthier because we're going to have 10 billion people coming. And then we have to take care of the older generation, not only in normal time and also in emergency time. Which lead to the third element I want to talk with you tonight is about why is there more environmental problem and human problems? May I suggest to you that in our past, we as humans haven't been living in synergy way with nature. Think about the land we use, right? There was a time, there was a natural cycle of human and land. We provide waste to the land and the land provide food with a diverse micro. We eat it. And that's why the Amish people, their tummy has more diverse micro. They live inside a circular economy. Now we don't. Today we count on fertilizer to fertilize the land. We disrupt that natural cycle. And those fertilizer run off to the ocean and becomes this nitrogen, and also phosphate run into our body of water and create eutrophication. Basically, it's this nutrient that kill off the seafood and in turns make it less food for humans. So moving forward into the future, our issue is not just the carbon, but it's holistic resources from the way we use our land, the way we clean our air. We start with carbon, but there's only one dimension of the environment. So it's going to be about land, it's going to be about air, and it's going to be about water holistically, clean them up. And we have humans, we can actually use a lesson from nature, submit ourselves to understand how to live more integrate with nature, because it's only in that way we can minimize the amount of chaos in the future to support 10 billion people and make us healthier. So with that, I'm going to close out for this little talk of mine. But remember what I said in the beginning. I think it's important to figure out what is our North Star, what is your North Star, what is the future generations, the students we are working with, what's their North Star? Maybe one of those North Star is this basic, maybe kind of even Garden of Eden sort of lifestyle where human and nature are integrated together. In that way, we can minimize the carbon issue. As a starter, go beyond that to create a healthier humanity, and go beyond that to create in the future not a zero carbon future, but a zero resources impact future. In that way, we can truly be fruitful and multiply. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Luke. This is, I just think, just the absolute best way to bring all of these pieces together, to bring the human element back to us, and for us to reflect on it as we continue to move forward. Because, and I look at the statements that you've made, and when um, Kate that came right before you, and what GTO is looking to do, the importance of bringing teachers into this space. Because I found from the time in working with core members for the core network, and although they have 25,000 young people, which I see as an army of environmental stewards, and I want them to see it that way too, and how many they can bring each year, is the importance of bringing the educators in, because I have heard from young people that that is what they are looking for. They're not necessarily, it's not just about, oh, the big job or whatever. They didn't come into the cause, and I'm sure into groundwork just for some of them do. But what keeps them there is that feeling of connection, and that looking at the world in a different lens. So I guess I'm looking at and just saying, it's sort of reaching back out to GTO, and that it's so important what they're doing. Someone wants you, and I think it's, again, we have to hear it again. And I agree with Janine. Can you repeat your final statement? They said it was so important. And they said it was something about not creating a zero carbon future, but rather creating a zero resource impact future. So they just want you, and I also, yes, I think it's so important. If you could just say that again for us.
Let me say it in a different way. The the time was about 1800. There's a person called Henry Adams, a Harvard graduate. He wrote a book. He wrote a book called What We Should Tell the American Teachers. In that book, what he said is, now, by the way, I'm an engineering student, right? But in that book, he talked about we should teach the American teachers from the engineering point of view, the second law of thermodynamics. What the heck is that, right? First law of thermodynamics is saying energy cannot be destroyed or created. Okay. Second law of thermodynamics is saying, yeah, you cannot create or destroy energy, but in that conversion process, it's not perfect and not reversible. That's why one of the important things for human beings is to minimize that inefficiency or minimize that chaos. And as a result, that thinking is going to translate to a living style of zero resources impact, meaning we're going to recirculate all the stuff that we use to minimize the impact on the resources we use on the land. We're going to minimize the amount of fertilizer we throw into the soil, into the ocean, and use as much natural fertilizer, kind of like a tree, to clean up our air and water. So we, that's how, the vision of that. And the science of that is, look, that's called entropy, by the way, the idea that every single, for example, if you burn fossil fuel, you're not going to get 100% of the energy out of it because part of that is going to be losses. And you're not going to be able to reverse that. So as humans, by the second law of dynamics, set by Henry Adams a century ago, is we have to focus on how to minimize this our impact as humanity. And that's why it's going to be beyond carbon into whole resources zero. Get to the point of not only zero, possibly regenerate our land, water, and air. Yeah, I can tell you as I go around the world, and as you know, I'm in India, I was in China, I'm going to Mexico, and I'll be in Europe. No matter where I go, what gave me hope is the people I talk to. Many of them are very intelligent, and we are all singing similar song. As I mentioned, the world doesn't work together on a lot of things, but when it comes to climate change, the whole world agree that we gotta do something about it. I think sometimes we think, oh, maybe my voice is, maybe we don't have that common G chord in humanity when we look at all these things, just this bad stuff happening. But as I go around the world, I think there is a common G chord among humanities. And there's so many people that do great things. Think about what happened in the Arctic Circle at one time. We have this kind of ozone depletion in the upper atmosphere, and we thought it's a huge problem. But humanity got together and fixed it. I think I have great hope that we do have a common G chord in humanity. When the time comes, we can work together to do great things. That's what I'm hoping for. And I don't think that's a hope. I actually see that happen in humanity.